Get to know Go, the most engaging course for primary. Whether in school or at home, Go is perfect for all teaching styles and situations, no matter what your students' needs. In-class learning, blended learning, a digital version of the student's book and activity book with audio and video included. Fully digital learning. Fully interactive and trackable content for learning platforms. Go supports you, whatever your situation. Are you ready? Go.
It has been a long road and full of challenges. Being bilingual on graduation day has been one of my greatest achievements because I now have the tool set to go on reaching all the objectives I might set for myself in the future. A world of opportunities opened up to me when I started studying with Richmond Solution. I was really able to learn autonomously. I could study at home, in the library, or in the classroom. I could dive into the book, or by being connected to the internet, I could explore fascinating activities that empowered my English skills. I was able to instantly access the answers as they were only a click away. I loved working in a team. My friends and I had great fun as we learned. I learned a lot from them, and I know that they learned something from me. The exams were always challenging, but thanks to the practice that was constantly available on the digital platforms, we were fully up to speed to meet these challenges. I am really going to miss my school.
Richmond Solution helped us hugely to transform the English program in our school. We have now got the best tools to guarantee the best learning. Let me show you. Part of the process gives us access to a coach who builds our confidence, as well as training courses to better our abilities and to continue our improvement. Yes, good teachers are always keen to learn more. As we live in the cloud, as we say in this connected world, we have digital resources to improve our classes and which allow our students to learn from anywhere in the world, even quite literally in the clouds if they are on board an airplane. Through the Richmond Test Manager and Learning Analytics, we have a variety of possibilities to test, validate, and monitor students' progress. It is amazing to be able to see how your students are learning and to have the evidence of their learning at your fingertips. This really does make us very happy indeed. Richmond Solution is a solution designed for you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the third day of the Richmond Week, an adventure for English learning. I'm Yvonne Sandoval, and I'll be moderating today's session about learning analytics. First of all, we want to welcome all school directors and teachers that are here today from schools in Colombia, Latin America, and Central America. We invite you to participate and write all your questions in the chat box using the hashtag Richmond Week and Joy of Teaching. Let me introduce our guest speaker, Gonzalo Pastor. Gonzalo is a computer science specialist and a digital strategy director at Santillana, Mexico. In his webinar, Data Analytics and Evaluation, Gonzalo will show us how to use data from sources like the Richmond Learning Platform to monitor students' progress and make pedagogical decisions. So let's welcome Gonzalo.
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. We're going to explore about learning analytics and a little bit what happened with the COVID-19. And for that, I will share my screen, if you've seen my screen, but let's talk about expectations versus reality. And when we talk about learning analytics, before we go to in the depth of the topic, we need to set up the reality, what we're going to talk about. And in 1960s, people talk a lot about exploring space. So they envision that by this century we will live in colonies in Mars or in the moon, right? But not the truth, right? Right now, the closest thing that we've been living outside our planet is through the Mir, which is the Russian space center, and now the International Space Station. And of course, we have the promise about that Elon Musk is doing with SpaceX, that we will live in Mars. And he said that, and I quote, he will die in Mars. Hopefully not by crashing, but from old. So that's the type of thing. When we talk about learning analytics and assessment, we need to set up the reality, because we don't want to overpromise. And that's the principal thing. So let's start with a definition. And I show you stuff from the 60s, like Space Odyssey, because learning analytics, that definition comes from that time. And that time has to be adjusted to the reality today. And the definition that we use today was agreed and coined on 10 years ago. So we need to start talking about that, which is basically measuring and collecting data to improve learning. That's basically it. So let's talk a little bit history, right? In the before personal computer, everything was handled by mainframes and dumb terminals, nothing really special, and it was really expensive to manage. Then these two guys, Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, they are the fathers of the personal computer. And what is more personal than learning, right? So they are the ones that created this movement about learning analytics. Even they don't know it, they're the responsible of a lot of stuff that we're talking about right now. And this is the first beginnings of the personal computers. But when we talk about learning analytics and assessment, we're talking about a lot of data, right? And huge amount of data. And at that time, storage was really expensive, more than $3,000 for 10 megabytes. It's really, really, really expensive, even for today's standards. So basically, you could buy 3 iPhones with this amount of money. So it's important to mention that, because that's part of the evolution. As long as the technology has evolved, what we can expect from assessment and learning analytics has changed a lot. And we don't need to mention about connectivity between devices, right? And Wi-Fi wireless interlinking is really relevant, because when we started 20 years ago, the connection was really slow. So expecting a learner to wait for a web page to load and to answer and the information to be submitted to the server took it too long. Now that's basically really fast. So that's something that we need to consider. And just to put you in perspective, think about this. Mainframes in the 1960s, and today we have computers that are really small. And that's part of the conversation. So we started with big computers, but small questions. And the question was answers, right? Because we want to know how many learners got the right answer, or how many of them got the wrong answer. That's where things started. Then we can put a layer on learning objectives. I'm an engineer, so I love sandwiches and hamburgers. And hamburgers and sandwiches are layers. Bread, lettuce, everything, it's about layers. So yes, we can put a layer about learning objectives, maybe skills, Bloom taxonomy. We can start including that information to make more relevant data. But again, it's still not very interesting. Now, about context, because the context gives us a lot of information about a person. So this is from our Richmond Learning Platform. And from a report from the platform, from the company, I can pull a report that gives me some data. Right. This is the data from more than 500,000 users, 500,000 learners that have done any assignment during a period of time this year. And they're doing quite well, actually. They're getting 87% of the right answer. So that looks pretty good, right? And And yeah, someone can tell me, look, yeah, but you're comparing kids with young adults, you're comparing different levels, different products. I know. But when we talk about learning analytics, we need to think outside the box. And this is where things get interesting, because I'm seeing that from the learners that got good grades, at least 4% of them, they set up their cell phone or the device or their computer or the tablet, it's in English. Why this is relevant? Because we're not talking about a huge amount of learning. We're talking just only about 4%, almost 5%. Well, let me show you. This is Elena. Elena, she's my daughter. She's 3 years old, and she's only allowed to watch TV or Netflix or Prime Video, whatever. She's only allowed to watch that in English. So every time she wants to hear "Let It Go" for I don't know how many times I'm hearing "Let It Go" at a day, she requests this information to Alexa or Google Home. And if she wants to do it, she needs to do it in English. Of course, Alexa and Google Home are technology that they will try to understand what she's saying, even if she doesn't have a good pronunciation or good accent, or she's not saying the right word. Alexa and Google Home will try to provide the right answer for her so she can listen, "Let it go," right? And when I say "let it go," I'm hearing "let it go" at my place for, I don't know, 1,000 times a day. So sometimes drive me nuts. But again, the English is relevant for her because she needs to use English in order to communicate and to listen "Let It Go" or other song, right? So again, learners that are using devices that the setup is in English get better results because it's relevant. Now, let's think outside the box, right? And because if we want to talk about learning analytics, we need to talk outside the box. It's something that we need to think. So, okay, having a device in English can help me to learn better English, right? And what about the screen resolution, right? And of course, if you ask Apple, they will tell you that you need a great screen resolution in order to learn English, and if you better the resolution, better English you will get. Well, not actually, but in general, it's something that you can see is the screen resolution on learning English. It's something that we need to consider. The problem with that is that we can pass from information to knowledge to conspiracy theories or creativity, which is fun, but not actually relevant, right? So that's one of the things that we need to think about when we're moving through this new era in which we have a lot of information, but not all the information is relevant, and there is not a causality between screen resolution and learning English, right? But the setup of the language of the device, yes, it has an impact on how learners are, how well they improve with the language. So that's the kind of things that we need to learn when we're talking about learning analytics. So context is really important. But let's think a little bit more about which other information we can collect from learners. And this is, again, from the Richmond Learning Platform. And this is part of analytics provided to us. And Google Analytics shows to us that we have learners that, of course, well, they are in K-12. Let me show you. Yeah, of course, they're in K-12. They want to learn English in education. But there are a couple of things that are more interesting. Life events, right? Moving, changing jobs, starting a new job soon. And this is part of prediction of Google. But why people want to learn English? Because they want to communicate, but also because they want to communicate, but they want to improve themselves to get a better job or to get a better life. Not necessarily a better job, it's a better life. That's another conversation. But actually, we know what are the interests of our learners. So no matter if they're small or high, and the way we handle that information is relevant. Because, well, let's be honest, it's really important. And let me show you why it's important. Because we're talking about the digital footprint. And digital footprint It's about how I behave online, but not only how I behave online, it's how people see me online. So that's why there is this tool which is called Apply Magic Sauce. And Apply Magic Sauce allows me to upload my information from my Facebook or an article that I wrote and make a prediction. And I will show you my results. But these guys, what they want to transmit to people is that right now, every platform it's collecting information about you. Every platform, every time you log on Facebook, everything is being collected and it is being assessed about which are the preferences because they want to sell you something. On education, well, we need to learn this in order to teach better, how to show learners how they can see what they're learning is more relevant and how that things that they are learning are connected with their interests. So it's something that it's really important. So I connected information, and this is part of the risk and the possibilities. On the right, you will see Facebook, which is basically my data, the way I behave, and you see the article on the other side. Or you see a small difference between age, the prediction. No, I'm not 27, and I'm not 28, uh, and I'm a bit older. But yes, I'm a male, and you can see 5 traits of personalities that the system is predicting about the way I write, not what I'm writing, but the way I write, right? So it's quite confusing because it's not saying that uh, I'm a liberal and artistic. It's the way I'm using words to express myself. So if my boss David is watching this, please look at this. Organized and hardworking, right? But actually, on my Facebook, I'm impulsive and spontaneous. So this is something that to consider because not always the information we're collecting it's 100% accurate. And that's one of the challenges behind learning analytics. How we are sure that we're telling learners it's right or wrong, because we're not talking about how many learners got their answer right or wrong. We want to learn the way they are learning, how we improve learning. So a little bit more on this. The system shows that I'm not satisfied with my life, and intelligence. Well, it says that I'm intelligent, but not necessarily. You can ask my wife, so maybe she has a different vision. But the problem with this is that it's not 100% accurate. And if we're using this type of technology in education, well, maybe if you show someone the future, they don't have a future because now they feel compelled in order to see this. So that's part of the challenges behind learning analytics. And we haven't talked about what is the impact in COVID-19. But the thing I want to show you right now is that before we start talking about the huge amount of information that we have, we need to start making the right questions and to be very sure on how we want to handle that information in order to create new things, right? But more interesting is that every time we want to apply this information to education, people feel hesitating to share that information for learners. And they're not wrong because every time right now with the pandemic, I see a lot of people, I see new companies emerging providing digital services. But what are the responsibility behind that privacy of the data from the learners? Because that's relevant because we nothing more personal than learning. So we need to be very careful on that because otherwise we can face really bad things. And me personally, I love this topic. So George Orwell, he talked about that, about we need to be very careful the way we handle that information because otherwise we're susceptible to manipulation, which is basically what happened in Brexit and the US elections. But the question is how although it's a bad thing, can empower education in a great way because we can create better products for learners. We can create stuff that match learners' personality. So we need to be very careful on that. Of course, I'm on the other way. I'm talking about conspiracy theories, but in general, we need to be very careful on that. who is handling our information, and if they're handling that information responsibly, and if they are looking to handle that information to improve how learners learn. Again, nothing more personal than learning. So let's go back to talk about learning analytics, right? So I want to emphasize on the context, right? What is surrounded those learners? I want to learn which device they use, because the device will tell me a lot about social economical backgrounds. Are the parents bilinguals or not? I don't know, how susceptible are they to travel? Understanding, optimizing that environment that we're providing to them. So it's really important understand. And the other thing that is not highlighted, it's purpose, because the purpose is what make it right or wrong. Right? And we want to make sure that learners are actually learning, and I will not say enjoying, because that is a big conversation about should be learning be something that is fun or not. I don't know. I'm just an engineer, but actually the purpose, and the purpose of us is basically teaching better. And that purpose is empowering teachers so they can teach better. And that's part of the report that we have built on the Richmond Learning Platform, to help the teachers to assess which learners require more emphasis, more work, which one require a better intervention or different intervention from the rest of the learners, right? So an example, back to Earth, an example of learning analytics in action from our perspective, right? As an edtech, right? So we have three sentences. It's a quite simple sentence. This is extracted from, I will not say an experiment, but it's an analysis that we did a couple of years ago. And learners were required to write something like this. And they saw, we showed to them a picture, an audio or something, and they had to write a sentence. And this is an example, right? So some of the learners got it right, no problem there. There is no mystery, they got it right. But I want to focus on those two, right? I would say, but only 1.8% of the learners got it, wrote the question with this, a small space between the phrase and the question mark, and only 1.3% used the wrong question mark. Well, it doesn't look very much, really, to be honest. But the impact of these 4% of 4% of the learners that got it wrong, we learn a lot. Let me show you. For the learner that put a space between the phrase and the question mark, we learn, because we are learning too, that they were using autocomplete software, which is basically available in any device today. Windows, Mac OS, iPhones, iPads, Android tablet, Android devices, everything has an autocomplete software. There is a huge industry behind this. And how autocomplete software works? Well, basically, the software tries to guess what I'm writing, and the software will make a suggestion, right? So I will show you a small video. This is my cell phone, and I'm using autocomplete software. Let me show you. So you can see that I'm starting to write. Robert and Martha are in the movie theater, aren't they? Right. So you can see that the software is correcting my spelling and suggesting the word here in the middle, right? And basically, I don't need to think a lot on what I'm writing, because the software is doing it for me. So the question is, if I'm in a learning process, I am learning or not? How this is changing the way I'm learning. And it's not something simple, because we have a huge conversation if we should include this space between the phrase or not, because everything has changed. Luckily for me, the software did it good for me. But you can see, this is my setup of my on my device. You can see that here the system can create the syntaxes, the system can predict the syntaxes. So the software is doing everything for me. Now imagine this technology in the hands of your pupils and your learners. You're not going to see it because most likely they will put it right. We don't know. So how many of the learners that got right the correct answer use autocorrect software? So that's something that we need to start measuring, right? And of course, we can play a lot because there are some challenges behind autocorrect or predictive text, right? This is a joke that I love and fancy for a teacher. And this is, David, if you're looking, yes, I'm making fun of you because he uses a lot of auto-predict software and sometimes he write stuff that it's funny. And I know because he's using this software and the same thing happens to me. So we need to be very careful because we're not actually kids. I don't know if they are learning or not. That is something part of the conversation that we want to put on the table. And of course, there are really funny examples of autocomplete software. Please go to Google and use and start writing crazy stuff. And you will have a lot of fun of what you're going to find out. For example, when I hate when I'm studying and a Velociraptor, why? That's weird. Or stop finishing my sentences. That's one of the things that I love from Google. But let's be serious. The problem that we're seeing right now is the same old conversation around math. Learning math and using a calculator, right? Some people say it's not allowed, some other people say it's allowed, but there is a huge conversation around this. So autocorrect software in English, I don't know, you tell me guys, because it's something that we need to put on the table and to talk about, because it will impact the way we assess learners, because they are using, I will not say cheating, because the devices are part of our life, but we need to consider that, right? It's not something that we can neglect. It's part of our daily life, and we live through that with that every day, right? So it's something to consider. Now, about why some learners they were using the wrong question mark, and this is what I learned is that they were using iPads. Right? So here's a video of my iPad. You can see the keyboard is in English. So you could say that I'm not actually cheating because I'm using a keyboard, but again, the autocorrect software kicks in. And in this case, well, the system works different. I will not say Android or iOS, it's better. I will say it's different, right? And the problem, I don't know what happened to me there. I was trying to figure out how to use the comma. I'm not very used to use iPad, but when it got to the question mark, trying to find out how to use the right question mark. Hopefully, Apple is taking care of this. And the reason for this is because I'm using. Oh, sorry, I moved my. The reason for this is because I'm using a Spanish keyboard on my iPad, right? Because you can see the special character, right? So that's tricky. It's not an easy thing. We need to be very careful on how the devices are changing the way learners are learning, right? So it's not an easy thing. So when we see that this huge explosion around we see, sorry, I was looking at the questions. If we see a big this explosion about using technology because we're now confined to our homes, but the question is how that technology is changing the way learners are learning. It's quite interesting. It's something that definitely I would want to learn. And something that this is plain being lazy. This is from a webinar, people using our Richmond Learning Platform, and the learners are using the Google Chrome functionality to translate everything to Spanish. So remember, we were talking about how English is relevant for learners, but if they're using this, most probably, yeah, we can block this in the system, and that will happen soon. But give us some information about the learner, that the learner is English is not really relevant for them because they already have a tool that make their life easier for them, so they don't see the need for English. And I think a lot of myself when I was studying abroad, or my wife or my sister-in-law, we needed English because otherwise we could not. We had to eat, so we had to be able to go to a restaurant and say, "Oh, please give me a burger. I'm hungry." So we learned English in the hard way because we had to focus on how we had to face the relevance of English without the help of these tools. So that's something that we need to think a lot, because it's not a simple thing. And now imagine a teacher which, they see this, some of them, oh, they hack the Richmond Learning Platform. Not really, because there is a huge industry helping people not needing to learn English. But I don't know. You tell me if it's important to learn the right way or not. If it's important to use, if it's relevant to use a calculator in math, yes or no. It's part of the conversation, and that's the things that learning analytics is putting on the table, and that's what is happening right now when we see what is happening in every school in the world. That everyone is using technology, but we're not assessing how that technology is impacting the impact that has in learning, because we're forgetting these type of small things. The good thing is that Richmond is looking into this, and this is the type of things that are really exciting to talk about, because it's not simple. It's something that will change education. It's not only how many times they got it right or wrong a question, it's about how they are learning, right? So like I said, the confinement has made everyone start using the digital platform that they are been sitting there for a long time. No one were using it, and I don't blame teachers, because they saw it as an extra work, and now they're starting to use and they see the value of it. But the problem is that not necessarily all the platforms are providing the right information to the teacher. Luckily, with the Richmond platform, we already have that. But the challenge behind that is because it took us the pandemic, the COVID-19, in order to people start using the platform. Now, about the information we're collecting. So we're collecting a huge amount of the information. So how are we going to use that information to empower teachers and to create better educational product for learners? And I think that's the question, that's the challenge. And that is not going to happen in 3 months. It will take a lot, because a lot of conversation needs to happen, like autocomplete software. That's something that we need to talk about, no? And again, talking about how many times they got it wrong, right or wrong, a question is not that relevant. It's more about the context, and that's the type of things I want to talk about, and that's the type of things I would like to discuss more with you guys. Right? And because the quality of thoughts is limited by the quality of our language, but let's be honest, devices and technology that enables to talk about learning analytics will change the way we use language. So how that future looks like, I don't know. And that's where teachers become really important. I always use this phrase. It's from a friend that is called Patricia Colorado. Someone in Silicon Valley, I don't remember who said this, but it's really important, because learning analytics will need to empower learners, because if a device if a system provides the feedback, is not as relevant if teachers give it to you, because we need to modulate that feedback to match every learner. And which one is better, a device or a person? I think a teacher, they are going to be benefit from this trend, which is learning analytics. That's the one that we need to consider. So that's why I like to put always the teacher bot. And of course, when I put the bots here, it's not about the children's bot. It's about the technology that we're using, and we're there to build that, right? So I think this brings us some big questions, right? How are we going to use the data, right? And one of the things that I like to talk more is about how we're going to use the data we're collecting to create content that keep students engaged and motivated. Because I think that's one of the biggest challenges. It's not about the can-do statement. It's more about, are they motivated? And that's why probably English teachers are the most popular between kids, because they are the one more pop, because they are always looking songs to show to learners so they can see the relevance of English. And that's one of the things, how we can create that behind that, right? And how we can transition that information into teachers, right? So with the Richmond Learning Platform, we think about the test managers and the report. The test manager and the report that we have is more to show teachers where, well, the progress the learners are doing, that actually they are learning, but also to help them to make better interventions. To tell them, don't worry about right or wrong, because the system will do that immediately for you. I want to show you in which areas learners require more work, and maybe you can do a better intervention, right? That's the name of the game. It's not other, because that's what makes things relevant. And basically how we manage this fear behind this, right? Because when we see all the scandals of how our private data is being used, we need to start talking about that. How we're going to use, and to whom we are going to share that information. And that's why I would recommend to everyone that is watching this to think about that. Who is handling that information? Are they handling the information from your learners responsibly or not? And I think that's something that we need to put on the table when we choose a product over another one. Data privacy becomes really, really a big element. So I think those are the things that I have to talk about. I'm sorry if I'm talking really fast, but this time this thing is really exciting for me. And we will open the chat for some questions and for some comments. Please follow me. But before we start with the questions, I have a personal favor. My wife's birthday is tomorrow, so this is her LinkedIn profile. So please drop a happy birthday to her, because I want her to have a lot of happy birthdays now that we are not with, well, we cannot spend time with her mom and her dad and my sister-in-law. So it will be lovely if a lot of people say happy birthday to her tomorrow. So let's open to questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Gonzalo, for sharing all your ideas and your experience on this subject. And we have one question. Let's go with the first question. And is, as teachers, how can we start implementing learning analytics? What would be the first step?
Okay, well, if you're using the Richmond Learning Platform, you will see that you have a report area, right? On the report area, we have the basic stuff, which is basically skills, and you can drill down to see, okay, the average of my learners is this is 70%. I don't know. I will try to use any number, but then you can go to which learners are below the average, and then to define a plan for them. So the Richmond Learning Platform already have this functionality in the system. So that's already in your hands, because it was created for you, so you can. We want to empower teachers. That's the reality. So that already exists on the Richmond Learning Platform. So go to report, assign some test, and you will see how the magic happens. That you will see how many learners, how they distribute, how the skills are, and which learner require more attention and which others they do not. And about the type of device that they're using, oh, that's on us. We need to still process this information. I hope you found that you see that that's interesting too, and that will change the way we create new technology and new content in the future.
Okay, thank you, Gonzalo. We have another question. It says, when we make when analyzing data, what can we do?
Well, it's about basically what are you looking for, and I think that's the biggest question. What do we want? There is a slide I will try to show you in a moment. I don't know what happened, but I had a small joke about deleted. But if you search for the criminality, violent death in the US and the use of Internet Explorer in the last decade, you will see that how Internet Explorer started to reduce the market share. The violence in the US go down. Well, it's not actually a correlation between that, but well, there is a correlation, but it's no causality. So I think we need to start talking about what are the questions we want to solve, because people talk about learn analytics and then they talk about artificial intelligence, and actually we need to start defining the question first. So the question will be for you is, what do you want to solve? And we will try to solve the problem for you with the data we have. But the data itself, we need to be very careful. Otherwise, we will create conspiracy theories. And me, myself, I'm really keen to that. I love conspiracy theories and dystopia. So we need to be very careful controlling our brain not to go over our heads thinking what could happen. So we need to talk about that. It's something that I would love to have a teacher in front and say, please tell me what you need to learn. Let's start with the basic. Which learners require more work? And I think that's the simple one. Now let's talk about empowering teacher. Which one are using autocorrect software? Maybe that will be the future, but it's part of the conversation.
Okay, thank you, Gonzalo. Another question. What would you say are the key features for analyzing data on the Richmond Learning Platform?
Well, test manager, you have that report, and you will see there that you have 3 different types of reports. You will see the distribution of the learners between the CFR, and you will see how many of them, which level they are, and you will see the skills and basically the grades. So I think that's all the information for now that we can provide for you. But you will see that it's a great tool, and I will give you a lot of confidence seeing which learners require a different intervention and which one do not. So I think that's the first thing. But we need to start assigning tests. That's the first thing that you need to go there. Go to the Richmond Learning Platform, assign a test, and then watch the report. And then we can define a plan together. But it's not going to happen by itself. You need to do the assignment.
Exactly. Yes, I think the first thing we need to do as teachers is to make sure we have data. And to get data, we need students to work on the test, the interactive activities. I mean, work on all the activities that are embedded in the platform. Okay, another question. I think you mentioned this, but this is very important, so that's why I'm gonna read it. Should we worry about student privacy analytics?
I think we do, but don't get me wrong. It's about, I think when we talk about analytics, I think of my daughter, right? I want my daughter to trust me, right? And because I want the best for her, and I will treat her right, and I will treat her information in a correct way. So for you guys, when you're choosing a platform, I will say, look who is handling your information, who is behind that. I think you will see that Richmond and Santillana in general, it's really committed to data privacy and to handle that information. We care for that data because we want to learn more how to build better products. We don't want to tell you anything else. We want to teach you better. We want to people say, oh, you have the best product. So yes, you should be concerned about that, but you should not be afraid that someone is using that to improve the product that you're using to teach. I think that's the reality. I don't know. That's the way I think. It's something that you cannot neglect. You cannot say, oh, I'm not going to take care of, I will neglect learning analytics because I'm afraid of that. I will say, no, don't be afraid, but be very careful. That's the recommendation.
Okay, good. And we have another question from Clayder Trejos. He says, let's say we collect data, we propose an action plan, but it doesn't work as we want it to. Therefore, should we continue collecting data?
I think we should, definitely. Sometimes when we collect data, we collect rubbish. That's the reality. But it's about the questions, what we want to solve. And when you start a journey, sometimes you don't know what you're going to encounter on that journey. So collecting data, what will happen is pretty much like the brain of a child. They have a lot of neural connections, but when they grow older, the brain will say, oh, this data will not require this connection, and will clip a lot of information and will make the brain simpler. So for now, because we're still grasping this, we need to collect as much information as we can, and we need to start making the right questions. And again, what happened right now is that when we see the use of many of these digital platforms the last decade, we don't see that they were broadly used. We saw some users that were using in an amazing way, but some of them that they didn't use it so much. So our information is still incomplete, and we need to start talking and having that conversation because, yeah, COVID-19 already happened and it has changed our life forever. But that doesn't mean that has changed how the products were built. So we need to start having that conversation. So let's keep collecting that data, and then we will see which data is relevant and which one is not. And it's part of the conversation. I think that's really interesting to have that conversation.
All right, very interesting. Gonzalo, thank you very much for being here today with us, sharing all your knowledge and experience in this interesting field. As you mentioned, learning analytics is an emerging, but is a very promising field for all teachers. It will help us make important decisions and actions based on data and not intuition. The Richmond Learning Platform, just for everybody to know, it's a great tool to keep track of our students' learning process and make decisions that enhance their learning experience. If you want to know more about the Richmond Learning Platform, we invite you to contact your ELT representative or consultant or visit richmondlp.com, and you will discover the power of this platform. Before leaving, we want to invite you to visit richmondweek.com, register and see all the videos, articles, and resources that we have prepared for you. Don't forget that tomorrow we'll have a session with Carol Johnson at 4 p.m. Don't miss it. And thank you very much for being here. Goodbye.
It has been a long road and full of challenges. Being bilingual on graduation day has been one of my greatest achievements because I now have the tool set to go on reaching all the objectives I might set for myself in the future. A world of opportunities opened up to me when I started studying with Richmond Solution. I was really able to learn autonomously. I could study at home, in the library, or in the classroom. I could dive into the book, or by being connected to the internet, I could explore fascinating activities that empowered my English skills. I was able to instantly access the answers as they were only a click away. I loved working in a team. My friends and I had great fun as we learned. I learned a lot from them, and I know that they learned something from me. The exams were always challenging, but thanks to the practice that was constantly available on the digital platforms, we were fully up to speed to meet these challenges. I am really going to miss my school.
Richmond Solution helped us hugely to transform the English program in our school. We have now got the best tools to guarantee the best learning. Let me show you. Part of the process gives us access to a coach who builds our confidence, as well as training courses to better our abilities and to continue our improvement. Yes, good teachers are always keen to learn more. As we live in the cloud, as we say in this connected world, we have digital resources to improve our classes and which allow our students to learn from anywhere in the world, even quite literally in the clouds if they are on board an airplane. Through the Richmond Test Manager and Learning Analytics, we have a variety of possibilities to test, validate, and monitor students' progress. It is amazing to be able to see how your students are learning and to have the evidence of their learning at your fingertips. This really does make us very happy indeed. Richmond Solution is a solution designed for you.
Get to know Go, the most engaging course for primary. Whether in school or at home, Go is perfect for all teaching styles and situations, no matter what your students' needs. In-class learning, blended learning, a digital version of the student's book and activity book with audio and video included. Fully digital learning. Fully interactive and trackable content for learning platforms. Go supports you, whatever your situation. Are you ready? Go.